So this video is about the UK, and as you can probably tell, I'm originally from the UK. It's where I grew up, it's where I spent most of my life. I left the UK when I was 18. I originally moved to the Netherlands, and since then, I've lived in multiple different countries. And I sort of saw what was going to happen, like 5 years ago. I saw this happening, and firstly, I just want to start this video with this image right here. So this is basically detailing the movements of millionaires, and there's this report that comes out every single year. And so, as you can see, other than China, which obviously, we're comparing China, a country that has, a much bigger GDP than the UK has, over 1 billion people, compared to the UK, which, has around 70 million people living there. And the UK has lost a crazy amount of millionaires. And they're fleeing and they're going to places like, Dubai, Australia, Singapore, the US, etc. It's pretty insane, how quickly this change has happened. So in this video, we're going to talk about why this is happening, where the UK is going to go in the future, and how you can save yourself from the way that this is going. And I'm sure, if you're living in the UK, you've seen a big change in the last 5 years. It's been absolutely insane how fast things are moving in that country. And I would say, out of the Western world, the UK is now the worst country in the Western world. And, everyone can kind of see this. This is why everyone's leaving. And, the UK is in a lot of trouble. And, I don't want the UK to do badly. Not at all, but, I can't control what happens to the UK. You can't control what happens to the UK. The UK has set this path for itself, and, there's nothing you can do about it, unfortunately. So why are people leaving the UK? So one of the first ones is rising taxes. And, this doesn't just affect, multiple millionaires, the ultra wealthy, which obviously we're seeing that trend start with them. But this also affects the average person, working a job. The government is just increasing taxes for normal working class people. They're not really concerned with, fixing the issues with the economy. It's just all about raising taxes. Another one, which is huge, is rising crime, especially in places like London. I saw London go from the best city in the world when I was a kid. I loved, going to London. It was an amazing, everybody knows that London in summer is absolutely amazing. But, I've just seen it go from this place, and also you had all the rich, people from, the Middle East coming to London. They'd bring their supercars, nice watches. London was the richest city in the world. And now, you can't even wear a nice watch in London without some gang, stealing it from you with machetes. There's people just going down the street all the time, grabbing people's phones on bikes. There's burglaries all the time. People are just getting attacked. It's really unsafe now in London, and it's completely changed in the last 5 years. This wasn't a slow, gradual change. I would say this change literally, it was just overnight. Really just after COVID, everything changed in London. Another reason is low productivity. And obviously this kind of started with Brexit. And whether you think Brexit is a good or bad idea, it's irrelevant. We're not talking about politics here. We're just talking about the facts. And, the UK has had a sort of stagnant growth and a stagnant economy. And it's since Brexit, there's basically no investment in the UK. People's wages aren't growing. The cost of living has gone up absolutely immensely. There was a time where, places like Australia, people said that they were much more expensive than the UK. And now Australia is actually cheaper than the UK in some ways. And especially in terms of rent, rent and food. I would say now that a place like Australia is cheaper. And, just the pound being devalued, you look at historical rates with the US dollar, £1 used to be $2 back in 2008. It's never recovered from that. And, so it's just down, it's just going down and down and down. Also chronic mismanagement. And this kind of, starts from the top, filters down, because there's chronic mismanagement at the top of government. And there's also just chronic mismanagement inside of local councils. And I'm sure that this living in the UK, you pay a bunch of money in council tax, and they can't even collect your bins. It's first it was once per week or whatever, and now it's I think once every 2 weeks. I'm not too sure, but I just know that like they hardly ever collect your bins anymore. You know, the UK has some of the highest electricity prices in the world. And it's just like a really, really depressing place to live. And this is something that I found when, you know, speaking to British people and, you know, helping them leave the UK, that when they leave the UK, they often become so much more happy because they realize that it is just such a depressing place to live. And British people are very friendly. You know, some of the most polite, friendly people in the world, but it is a society sort of based on, you know, everybody kind of moans about everything, complains, and nobody really does anything, which I think is one of the biggest issues. And I think, like, especially if you're an entrepreneur living in that society, it's a very like tall poppy syndrome society where, you know, if you rise up, if you become a little bit successful, people will attack you. And I also think for retirees, you know, why would you want to live in the UK and retire in the UK when there's so many better options for you to choose? I don't want to make this video doom and gloom, so let's talk a little bit about what you can actually do. I think everybody realizes there's clear problems with the UK, so what can you actually do as an individual? So the first option is do nothing. You can keep voting in politics and wishing things will change and complaining to your government. And, you know, if you want to do this, go ahead. But it's pretty clear that this doesn't work. You know, you've just voted for another government that are basically doing the same thing, but worse. And the right-wing government, which was in power for the last, you know, decade or however long it was is basically the party that did all of this. And now there's a more left-wing government, which is just accelerating it and making it even worse. So if you want to do nothing and complain about politics, go ahead. But that's not really like as an individual, you can't affect government change. It's just not how it works. You know, there's this. Let's leave that there. So the next one is diversify. So I think this is a great option for people that like need to stay in the UK because of a job, or you know they can't leave because of family or some reason like this. Even though there are ways to, you know, still leave the UK if you have a job and if you have family, there's ways to take your family with you, or, you know, move your job, move to your company in another country, or get etc. There's ways to get around it. But if you have to be in the UK, I would go about diversifying so that you can kind of make this exit in the future. So that would be, you know, like purchasing properties abroad, putting your money in offshore bank accounts, investing in, you know, other countries, and just kind of like diversifying yourself so that everything isn't, you know, for example, if I wouldn't keep my whole net worth in pounds in British banks, like I think that's a terrible idea, especially the way that this mismanagement is going. You know, the UK was once like this place that was like highly respected in terms of economics and banking, and the pound was highly respected, and that's like being completely eroded away now. So like, yeah, just, and it's very simple. It's not difficult to open up banks abroad in other countries and keep your money there. And, you know, like invest in other stock markets, purchase, you know, it's pretty normal for British people to like be open to buying property in places like Spain, etc. And it's pretty easy to do as well. And then the third option is just straight up leave the UK, which I think is the best for most people, especially, you know, if you're an entrepreneur or you're looking to retire, or, you know, you have like a high paying remote job. There really is no reason to stay in the UK where it's, you know, you have like very high taxes, very high cost of living, bad weather. You can move to another country, and we'll talk about that in a minute, about where you can actually move easily from the UK, because it is a lot harder now with Brexit. You know, before, when we were in the EU, you could just say, okay, tomorrow I'm going to move to Spain, done. You can go live in Spain with no, but now, you know, there's rules about it. You can't just go ahead and move. But, you know, also leaving the UK and diversifying, you can also do like a setup where you spend half the year. So maybe you spend the winter in another country and the summer in the UK. That's completely fine as well. You know, it doesn't have to be this scary thing like you're packing up your life away forever and, you know, getting on a boat and going to the other side of the world. So the first country where I think is great for British people, and, you know, it's the most popular country in the world for British people to move to, is Spain. And, you know, like if you go to the touristic places in Spain, you're going to meet, you know, tons of British people that retired there and live there. And, you know, one of the main reasons is like the low cost of living mixed in with the great weather. You know, Spain has some of the best weather in the world, some of the best beaches in the world. the best landscapes, some of the best food in the world. I actually think Spanish cuisine is the best in Europe by far. And also Spain is extremely safe. Basically outside of Barcelona and like parts of Madrid, Spain is extremely safe, much safer than the UK. And it also, real estate prices in Spain are very, very cheap for what you get. You can get an apartment close to the beach for less than 100,000 euros pretty easily. And also, Spain is fairly easy to become a resident as a British person. All you really need to do is show that you have around £26,000 in a bank account, or show that you earn over around £2,000 per month. From passive income, so that could be like rental or dividends, etc., or you just show the money in your bank account or in your investment account, and you can basically just get a residence permit that you can renew every single year. And also the lifestyle in Spain, is absolutely amazing. It's also like Spain is a place where there's very good infrastructure. The government actually invests in infrastructure, so you can get like high-speed trains from Seville to Madrid in like 2 hours, and it's like 35 euros. And you compare that to the UK, where like London to Manchester would be like over £100, and it's delayed and the train's horrible. And like if you've ever taken a train in Spain, you know that the high-speed trains are amazing. Obviously one downside to Spain is like high taxes, and it can be quite bureaucratic. So that's where this other country might be better for you. So that's Cyprus. And in Cyprus, you can get instant permanent residency by purchasing a property in Cyprus. When you get the permanent residence permit, you have that for the rest of your life. You don't have to worry about renewing visas every year or stuff like that. It's permanent. And also, Cyprus has a fast-track EU citizenship option where you can get Cypriot citizenship in as little as 3 years if you meet certain requirements. If you want to learn more about Spain or Cyprus or any of the countries we talk about today, you can book a consultation down below, and we're happy to help. Also, Cyprus has favorable taxes. They have a non-dom scheme, and it's very good from a tax standpoint. There's a lot of British influence as well on Cyprus, as it was like a former British colony, and there's still 2 big British military bases there. So it's going to be, English is much better in Cyprus compared to Spain, and it's going to be a bit more familiar culture. And again, great weather in Cyprus as well. And Cyprus is like a very good place for affordable luxury. It's a very nice, relaxed Mediterranean lifestyle, but they still have, like quite a lot of business going on there. There's quite a lot of opportunities. Extremely popular with, like wealthy British people moving there. Another one, if you're more adventurous and you want to get a second passport, because this is something as well, like the British passport is declining in power. More and more countries are now requiring visas for British citizens. You lost the right to live in the EU, and it's declining in power, and I wouldn't want to rely on the British passport for the next decade. I think if we look at the power in 10 years, it's going to be less than it is now. So Argentina offers the fastest citizenship in the world, at just 2 years, and it's one of the best passports in the world. It's the 12th best passport in the world. Buenos Aires has a very European lifestyle. It's my favorite city in the world. I have a home there, and it just really feels like you're in Europe. It's not like the rest of South America at all. And it's, I would say, the safest capital city in South America, and especially since it's like a mega city, absolutely huge city. And also Argentina has amazing food. I'm sure you've heard about Argentinian beef, and they're famous for that, and fernet and mate and all these different Argentinian things. Argentina is just amazing from a social standpoint, and food, and if you get invited to asado in Argentina, it's amazing. And also with this new residency process that we've been working on called residency by experience, it means that there's no income requirements to become a resident of Argentina. So you don't have to show any income or bank statements or anything like that. You can just enroll in 2 hours of Spanish classes per week, which is what you would spend on Duolingo anyway, and become a resident. So the final one is Mexico. A lot of British people are actually, opening up to Mexico and moving there. It's obviously been very popular with Americans, due to the proximity to the US, the low cost of living. And Mexico has super easy residence permit. If you visited Mexico between 2015 and 2022, you can just get a residence permit for 4 years, like that. It takes a week. Very easy. If you didn't visit Mexico between those times, there's other ways where you can show, you have around £30,000 in a bank account, or that you earn over around £3,000 per month. and you can get a residence permit that way. It's 5 years to citizenship in Mexico. It's also a very good passport. Mexico obviously has great connectivity. It's close to the US. There's, many flights every single day to Europe and the UK. Mexico also has like a very fast growing economy, and very affordable real estate. And it really is just like a cultural capital. It's a very good place where you can have both sides. You can, sort of be in this expat bubble, hang out with Americans, Canadians, British people, etc. But at the same time, you can, eat some of the best food in the world, interact with Mexican culture, which is a very culturally rich country. And I think Mexico is a great place as well. If you're interested in moving to any of these places, or, even if you just want to ask any questions, we offer services to help people move to many more countries than just these. These are just like a little snapshot. Then you can click the link in the description and book a consultation. And we can kind of like go through your situations and help you out, because I think moving countries and, dealing with all of these things is pretty daunting. And, it's much more easy when, you have professionals kind of like look over your circumstances and give you some professional advice, because it is like very complex and daunting. And, it's not like a one size fits all. I can't say, everybody should move to Spain or everybody should move to Cyprus or Argentina, because it really depends on your personal situation. So thanks for watching this video. I didn't want to make it doom and gloom. The UK is a great place, and, it's just going through a hard time. And I think like for the next, at least for the next decade or two, I don't think the UK is going to be a place where you want to be.